Hi, I'm Edwin
And I am Jack, and welcome back.
to the 950 Club.
Chicka chicka dance, chicka chicka dance.
So today we'll be doing something special for me. So I'm gonna let you guys into our decision making process here on the 950 Club. Usually we try to focus on shows that Jack and I think need more attention, and we did our Odd Taxi special, and that was set up so that we could talk about two shows that had influenced Odd Taxi, and then we did our
The fan special.
the fan special where we talked about Vivi and the 86. And so this time, because my birthday is coming up, so we'll be talking about two of my favorite anime, Kaguya-Sama Love is War and Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai.
The Edwin's birthday special.
That's right, the Edwin
Yeah.
birthday special.
Edwin was mentioning how we've been doing shows that have been needed attention, needed love and care, and something we genuinely want to discuss. We're finally at the point where, you know what? We're going to open our closet a little bit, and we're going to show you our true faves.
There you go.
Yeah.
So the reason I picked these two for my birthday celebration is because they're two of my favorites. For very different reasons. Kaguya-Sama Love is War is absolutely hilarious. It's one of my favorite romantic comedies. I mean, Horimiya might be my favorite romance anime, but Love is War might be my favorite. I mean, I know it's a romantic comedy, slice of life, but I think it's one of the best comedy anime out there. It's like I laughed so hard. I remember Jack told me about, like, me and Jack went back and forth with this because I had watched a few episodes and then I left it alone. You know how I am. That happens all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, I'm not sold. But then Jack went and watched the whole first season and he was like, Edwin, you have to watch this as usual. And so I dived in and I'm like, because the second season came out. I'm like, all right, the second season's out. That gives me the perfect excuse to go back and, watch the first season or finish the first season. Dive back in, blew through both seasons because, oh my God, it just gets funnier and funnier and funnier. And with the third season coming up, I thought my birthday would be a perfect time to talk about this show. And oh my God, we're going to dive into this and you guys are going to love it. And Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai. Oh man.
The feels,
So
the motion.
Oh man. This show is amazing. The writing, the drama, the story, everything. The way they play with a little bit of X-Files, your urban legends and stuff. And it's just really cool the way they do this.
It's probably the most informative romance you'll ever watch.
It really is. They're gonna drop some science on you and you're gonna appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's get into this, Jack.
Alrighty. Starting with Kaguya-Sama. Love is war.
Love is war.
Love is war. Love is war. Edwin's birthday, yo.
Thanks, guys. So with Love is War, I had watched the first few episodes before of the first season, way back when it came out, like back in I believe it was
2019 or so.
2019, yeah. And so I was like not impressed at first, but then Jack went and watched the whole first season and he's like, Edwin, you've got to watch it. You have to watch it. You have to watch it. And I put it off until they announced the second season. And then I was like, well, the second season is out. Let me watch the first season to catch up. Because I'd heard good things about the second season. So I blew through the whole thing. I blew through the whole thing, and then I was after Jack. I'm like, Jack, you have to watch this. You have to watch this. Like, he got me into it, and then I had to get him back into it for the second season because, oh my God, the second season was funnier than the first season.
Oh, it's a tie, but both are near perfect score for me.
Yeah.
And I was similar to Edwin in a sense that I was seeing like general reaction towards it, especially with Chica and her dance. Like,
Oh, yeah.
it was meme heaven kind of thing. And I didn't see too much of the humor. I saw like the goofy moments. And sometimes anime can throw you off like that. And ultimately, I was like, all right, it's on. It's highly recommended. I'll just jump in and try it.
Yep.
And I did not regret it.
No. Not at all. This show is kind of perfect. I think that the Chica dance is indicative of like a lot of anime where the first few episodes might not be as good as the rest of it. And it's not that the first few episodes aren't good, but the first few episodes are the setup.
Yeah, and it's an interesting point you bring up because the first season, I would argue, is pretty much like the setup. And how to discuss the structure of the show is best way to describe it. It's almost like a sketch comedy show.
I can agree with that. I
Yeah.
agree with that. I agree. It's almost like watching an SNL skit,
Yeah,
but long form.
long form and more like a stage play too. And like the setting is 75% of it's in one setting. That's it.
I'd go as far as 90%.
Yeah, that's true.
Because most of the show, and that's what the show does in those first two episodes. So even the first episode. So let's talk about the intro opening music. It's crazy. Essentially, the opening for the first the opening for the anime for the first season is essentially kind of like what they do with James Bond movies.
Yeah.
It's like
the silhouettes,
yeah,
like weapons, bullets flying through, kind of like the illusion of James Bond, what he sees and what he interacts with. Like this eternal being is like this is his fantasy world.
yeah, and it's like you're like, wait, what am I watching? It's just two high school kids at war with each other, trying to get each other to confess their love because they know if they confess, they lose.
Oh yeah.
And so the setup is you have the song is very much reminiscent of those older James Bond 60s movies.
Oh yes.
The artwork, the whole opening is the setup for what's going to be happening. And so you get a really different vibe than you would expect from like, a slice of life rom-com. It sets it up almost like this is a battlefield. They introduced the room, the student council room, and it's like the way they do it, it's like they're showing you a boxing ring.
Oh yeah.
Because like this is where the battles are going to happen. And the announcer is amazing.
Oh,
the
yes.
announcer is like one of my favorite characters because he has some of the funniest lines
in both
the show.
In both original voice and the
Yeah.
English dub too. It's pretty cool too.
Yeah, they do both. They both do an excellent job.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, he's like a sporting announcer. He sets up the stage. He tells you what's going on. He tells you about Kaguya. He tells you about Miyuki. He's like, all right. He describes them. Kaguya is the student council vice president, and she is kind of like this sheltered. She's really smart. They're both. That was one of the points that the creator wanted to get through is that these are two geniuses that essentially are essentially battling each other.
Oh yeah.
They're using their wits to try to get the other one to confess. And so he introduces them like that. And I thought this is really cool because it's very different for a rom-com slice of life. You don't
Extremely.
Yeah.
And the other show we're going to do for Edwin's birthday special,
Rascal does not dream
Rascal.
of bunny girl senpai.
Yeah, that's the other one. And that one's, I would argue, more of a traditional, what do you expect from anime romances. Love is War does in a way where it acknowledges previous ones, and it does it a zillion times better.
Yeah. Well, it takes those tropes and it turns them on its head.
Yeah.
And it turns it into something hilariously funny.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like Edwin mentioned with the room and everything set up, first two episodes, or three episodes technically, you get the sense of the battle.
Yeah.
It's the battle of the sexes.
Their schemes.
And their plotting, because both of them love each other. But hey, like that's already set in stone. But this is what happens during these.
Well, it's this cultural like thing that you see in a lot of slice of life anime. We saw it in Toradora. we've seen it. We've seen it in countless anime where the confession,
Yeah.
the love confession,
And
where
will
you
they? Won't they?
yeah, where you meet up with the school, where you meet up with a girl or a boy after school, and you essentially confess your love to them.
Yeah, and their setting is in this council room, and like Edwin said, they're the two smartest students in the whole school. This privatized, wealthy school, and it's almost like coming head to.
Well, the hilarious thing is that these two they're so smart, they're so competitive, they're so prideful, but they're also so naive and
Yeah,
inexperienced.
the stubbornness of the sexes,
Yeah.
and this is a show that I never really registered that at first. Second time viewing, I'm like, okay, both sexes are stubborn
Yeah.
when it comes to love.
I get it. I don't feel that it's that extreme for these two. I think it really comes down to their intellect.
Yeah,
They're letting their intellect kind of get in the way of what's happening. And it's not until like the third episode where that starts to calm down and change with the introduction of Chica.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Chica is the wild card. She's the foil in
Well,
their
she's
plans.
chaos.
She's chaos.
She's absolute total chaos.
And yeah, Kaguya mentions that later on too.
Yeah.
And even with the intro, with the symbolism and everything, it shows Chica as like that,
Kind of like the Bond girl.
no, well, a Bond girl, but also in a card, a tarot card like thing where she's death.
Oh.
Yep.
Well, she is absolute chaos.
But she's the complete opposite. Very bubbly, pink haired.
Yeah.
You know, one of those anime trope female protagonists where her bubbly personality overtakes her demeanor. Let's put it that way. And it's contagious, but at the same time, you're kind of like unsure.
She's an interesting character because she's not as smart as the other two.
Yeah, mind you, these are the top two of the school in wit and test grades. She's like barely at the middle.
Yeah.
Barely. Yeah.
And yet she can speak 5 languages.
She has a knack of knowledge in her own spurts.
Yeah, she can speak 5 languages. She's definitely more sophisticated than them when it comes to love.
Yeah.
And she's a famous piano player.
That she makes rules for games in general, and I think that takes a hell lot of creativity and knowledge for creating games on the fly.
Yeah, Chika Fujiwara is an interesting character.
And yes, the infamous Chica dance. She is the one that started that dancing trend. And like we mentioned, how I initially got to it, I'm like, okay, it's just a meme. All the people online and Instagram are doing this silly dance.
Well, so what they do is and I want to talk about the closing too, because I think that the closing is one of the best closings in anime.
Oh yeah,
ever.
Yep.
And it's just like Bizarro Land.
It's like almost like a Ghibli steampunk kind of like
absolutely
fantasy world.
Like she has angel wings. There's planes. They're all dressed as They're all dressed as aviator pilots.
Yeah.
There's a dirigible. There's these like 1920s fighter planes.
Yeah.
And they're both in the plane, and she has like angel wings, and this all ends up being a dream that she's having.
Yeah.
But it's so different from what's going on in the show that you're like, it's like a completely different anime.
Especially with the first couple episodes. And then the Chica dance, the ending is only in one of the episodes, which is fascinating because you would assume it was throughout the show.
Well, see, for the Chica dance, what that signifies to me is a change in direction.
Yes.
Of a softening of their war.
Yes.
And you get that in the second season because the title's different.
Yes.
It's Love is War ?
Yes.
So yeah, you see that over the course of the first season, especially for Kaguya, there's definitely a softening of her stance as far as the confession goes.
Yeah. And
yeah, she's losing the war.
Well, there is a tally system, and
Yes.
there's even a Redditor I found online. If you just look up scoreboard, Kaguya-Sama Love is War scoreboard, they actually marked in who wins and loses each episode,
Oh,
or
nice.
at least each skit. As with the setup, as Edwin was mentioning with the first couple episodes, because you get these weird, interesting conversation pieces with the characters.
Yes.
And Chica is thrown in as the wild card. And a basic setup would be like, Kaguya will be mindfully looking at the president, and they're kind of like being formal, like, "Oh, what's on the agenda today? Oh, we got to do budget cuts, things like that." And basically, like, becomes a little bit of a scheming plot where she's like,
Oh, a little bit.
"Well,
Oh no.
throughout the show," but this basic setup for each skit is you're getting this sense of like, what is Kaguya scheming? What is Miyuki scheming?
Yeah.
Like, there has to be agenda in terms of who's going to confess to what.
Well, that's the goal. So in the setup for the show, they both like each other.
Yeah.
They've both grown to like and respect each other, and it's love.
It's love.
It's love. Daisuke. They really like each other, but they believe in their minds that if they confess, they lose.
Oh, yes.
They won't have the power in the relationship.
It's perpetual surrender. It's
Yes.
the ultimate, like, you are mine, I am yours.
They're at the top.
Yeah.
So it's like if they confess, that's giving ground.
Yes, that too.
So they don't want to give ground.
Yeah.
But so essentially what it is each episode they come up with a scheme to get the other one to confess.
Yep.
Or if Kaguya comes up with a scheme, Miyuki starts to think, all right, this is a scheme. If I confess, and it's their misunderstandings and the things that they imagine, because the things that they imagine, it's like ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's part of the humor because
the outcome of it.
Well, they blow it so out of proportion.
Yeah. Their fears, especially like with Miyuki, he's always afraid of Kaguya demeaning him. Well, this is part of the battle of the sexes that is definitely apparent, but it's also one of those things where Miyuki's afraid of Kaguya ousting him, being like, "Oh, you thought, yeah.
Oh, do you love me?
Yeah, do you love me?
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's basically the setup because she's like, he could be like, "Oh, you brought me tea out of nowhere." That is cute. That is adorable. Like there's a venomous kind of like instinct with something so pure.
And that's just in his mind.
Yes.
Well, I mean, she is trying to scheme him into confessing.
In a way they know that they're
so he realizes that.
Yeah.
He realizes that, like when she tapes the coupons, when she plants the tickets, when she tapes the coupons, when she brings the cake.
Yep.
So she's definitely scheming.
Yeah.
To get a confession. So he knows this and he's aware of it, but sometimes those situations aren't what he thinks they are.
It's all embellished. Yeah. And same thing with Kaguya too, because Kaguya, with her background a little bit, basically she's a sheltered princess.
Yeah.
And her father is a wealthiest person in the school, or wealthy. She's technically the wealthiest student of the school because her father he has like
a multinational conglomerate that owns like a few towns.
Yeah, and direct spending for a school itself, things like that. The influence is strong with her, and she's second place.
Yeah,
and basically she, with that sheltered lifestyle, she's pretty much supposed to be given this heiress like title.
Yeah,
overseeing the companies because her mom died and the father is getting a little bit older too. So he's been really hard on her, cutting off access to a lot of normal things from shopping to going out in general with friends. And with Kaguya, she has to have a face. She has to have this persona that she's a professional, like through and through. And this is the eternal battle she has to deal with. And
well, I think that plays into later on in the first season.
Yeah.
And it's a little sad, but I think also it plays into the humor as well because she is sheltered. So she's a little naive about things. Mm-hmm. Like when Chica's reading the magazine article that talks about, someone's first time, And Miyuki and Chika, they both understand what that means.
Wink, wink.
Kaguya does not understand what that means. And so when she says that she did it with her mom and her dad.
Oh yeah, I did it with my new baby nephew.
And they're just like freaking out. And they're like, what is going on? And then Chika realizes, she says, do you understand what we're talking about? And she's like, yeah, somebody's first time, their first kiss. And Chika's like, oh, honey, no.
Oh,
no.
you summer.
But she explains to her.
You sweet summer angel.
Yeah. She explains to her, yeah, then, it's like animals. And the look on Kaguya's face, oh my God, she turns so red, and it's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's adorable.
Yeah, and the other side with Miyuki as well, because and with Miyuki's background as well, he's basically a hard worker, a noted cheapskate. He's very protective of his sister.
Yeah.
And with his father is an interesting case because he's kind of a deadbeat.
Yeah.
And his mom left the picture for another guy. So he's pretty much like head of the household regardless.
Well, for these two, it's their responsibilities and their duties that have kind of left them unable to have a more normal experience in life.
Very much so.
And so neither of them have had, girlfriends or boyfriends. And so they're both kind of innocent.
Yeah.
Which it makes it even funnier because here you have a show that's called Love is War. And you think, it makes you think that these two are,
they have the upper hand. They're going to end somebody's demise.
Like they know.
But
they know. And it's funny.
And the earliest episodes have this encounter with a couple.
Yeah.
One girl and one boy. They come for advice the boy comes to advice to Miyuki, and the girl goes to advice to Kaguya.
Man. And that goes so wrong.
Because both are looking
so horribly wrong.
Both are looking for advice on relationships. The boy wants to make an initiation towards the girl, and the girl is like, I don't know. So she tries to sort things out with Kaguya.
Miyuki was totally wrong.
Yeah.
He comes. Those girls were teasing him.
Yeah.
There was no interest at all.
Yep.
They were teasing him, but Miyuki's like, oh yeah, she's in love with you. And he's like, what? That relationship exists because Miyuki totally misread and misunderstood the situation.
Yeah, progressed it in a way, and it shows the irony of the show because what they overthink at the end of the day is what's stalling them.
Oh yeah. Well, it's their minds. They're definitely overthinking and over strategizing and just being stupid.
Yeah, they're young.
Yeah.
They're the smartest kids in the school, or at least with studies and stuff. And
well, yeah, and that's what they think that they're super smart, and they are.
They work hard. I would argue they just work hard more than anything.
They definitely they work hard. I think they're smart.
Yeah.
Because some of the schemes that Kaguya comes up with, it's like, oh my God, these are ridiculous. Talk about overthinking. But she has her strategy. She knows what he's gonna think. She knows what's gonna happen. And half the time, these would work out if it weren't for Chika.
Oh yes.
Chika comes in, and Kaguya's reactions, she's like, die, cow, die.
Yeah. Mind you, Chika's technically been friends with Kaguya for a long time.
Yeah.
But Chika is an interesting character because she's kind of like the normie in a weird sense.
I get that.
Yeah, because she actually has friends outside of the council. She organizes a lot of stuff. And then, something about her outgoing personality that throws everything off. And one of her flaws is not reading room. She doesn't care. Like, for all I know, she does know that Kaguya loves Mayuki, but she's still naive about it. And this is where it gets fascinating because she's technically the third wheel without trying to be the third wheel.
Oh yeah, that's what I was just saying. Like, Kaguya gets so upset. Her reactions are so blown out of proportion.
Yes.
Her internal dialogue, like, poor Chika, man.
Oh yeah. And then basically, like, with Miyuki, he actually respects Fujiwara. He at the end of the day,
there are moments.
He
tries a lot harder to be his internal. He's not as vicious. His internal monologue about Chika is not as vicious
as Kaguya.
As Kaguya's, but it's there. He's like, "Oh my God, you're just chaos."
Bring you back to speed of the setup of the show as well. One thing I can't help but mention how the show is set up in terms of battles and things like that is the classic series Spy versus Spy.
I get that.
Yeah, Spy
Yeah.
vs. Spy originally came from Mad magazine, and this is comic of a white animal thing. I don't even know what it is. It's dressed up in a spy attire.
They're two guys.
The
They're
two guys,
spies. Yeah.
yeah, but they have big noses. They're like,
Oh yeah, it's just an
yeah,
exaggeration.
similar like Felix the Cat type of style. One wears all white, one wears all black. And basically, they both have back and forth of like, okay, I got a trap set up ready. But it's usually the third part where the one spy his plan is foiled and the other one wins. Sometimes they both lose on cutout. Sometimes the one is about to lose, then the last second hurrah kind of thing. And with Chica in these setups, basically, it's either side of her getting to her own influence of changing the scenario.
Well, she works as the foil
Yeah.
to their plans.
Precisely.
And she's really, really good at it.
Extremely.
Yeah. Because Kaguya puts a lot of thought into these schemes. Like the whole umbrella scheme was ridiculous. The links that she went through in planning that umbrella scheme were insane.
Yeah.
And it ends up with her sick.
Yep.
It ends up with them in bed, which I thought was really crazy. I wasn't expecting that. It was really crazy and it was hilarious and it was absolutely adorable.
Yeah. And things like that come to play because like this is back and forth for first season. Like I said, the whole first season I would argue it's just a setup. The final 2 episodes are kind of like they go somewhere with it.
Well, it follows a pattern in like most anime where you have your 2 main characters and then as the series progresses they introduce other characters.
Yeah.
It's not all fun and games. Like you said, we get into like a bit of her past and her childhood.
It's oh man.
And it's you feel sad for Kaguya because she doesn't have a good relationship with her father.
Yep.
And being who she is, it restricts her movements and her activities a lot. So at the end of the end of the first season, they all want to get together and go see the fireworks at the end of the summer. And so they can't.
Yeah.
Because they won't let her. Her dad is concerned about her safety and they won't let her. And so she runs off and eventually she sees the fireworks. But her love for Miyuki is so intense that she doesn't even pay attention to the fireworks. She
Yeah.
pays attention to him.
Yeah.
And so they get serious toward the end. And that happens in the second season too, with Yu. And we'll talk about him in a second because as far as like the setup, he's introduced much later on.
Yeah, quite fascinating. Yu Ishigami. And Ishigami, this is the brilliance of the show because like second time viewing it, I had to look for key details. And how Yu Ishigami is introduced is near the halfway point.
Yeah.
He was there the whole time.
Yeah.
It cracks me up. I can't explain why it cracks me up so much because he's a loner. He's so isolated that even the show emphasizes how much of a bypass product he is. He's the treasurer of the student council, and he's in.
Yu Ishigami, yeah.
And they make little bits about it, jokes about it. But you don't, register it until that episode where he's just there. You're like, oh, this whole time, he's like an invisible friend.
It's a running gag. Well, his introduction is like. The whole point of the whole thing behind him is that he's so depressed and so like they were just not paying attention to him.
No.
He's just so not worthy of their attention that they're just not paying attention to him.
Sadly.
And he just kind of like disappears into the background. But he's been there the entire time misreading the situations.
Oh, yeah.
Though he sees Kaguya's reactions to things, like her death glare
he knows.
at Shika when she's ruining his plans.
Yeah.
So he's totally afraid of Kaguya.
He's like almost like the moral foil because he doesn't, by chance, things happen to him and he messes up the situation or the scheming, as you will.
Well, he likes to spew his righteousness.
The righteousness overtakes it. Yes.
He likes to spew his righteousness about youth culture and what's wrong with them. And he gets so ridiculously carried away.
It's over the top, but somehow somebody tickles my funny bone every time. Because it reminds me of a lot of like anime characters where they are self-righteous and they knew mean well at the end of the day. But that in the outskirts of it, guess what? They're technically the loners. They're technically the ones on their own.
Well, it's because it's like it's a little bit of a parody
It is.
of these kind of rom-coms.
Yeah.
And so he's kind of like the character who he's like that. He would work better in a serious dramatic comedy or a serious dramatic romance.
Eventually.
Yeah. But it's like here he's played for comedic effect.
Oh, yeah. And to the T. And that's the beauty of the show. Each of the main characters are complete opposite of each other, but in the same similar context of being together. Let's put it that way. Because sometimes, opposites attract, and this is a group. This is their family in a way.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a representation of like the different aspects of like Japanese society.
I was about to say, yeah. And even though these are,
but it's also like, I don't want to say generic, but common. Like Kaguya's the spoiled little rich girl.
Yeah, and Ishigami, his father owns a toy factory, and these are still.
Miyuki is kind of like the everyday hardworking laborer.
He got in because of his grades alone.
And then you have Chika, who's the diplomat's daughter, and then you have Ishigami, who's just kind of like, like the common every guy.
He's a common guy.
Common every high school guy.
He's definitely that one outside the box.
The otaku gamer.
Compared to everyone else. Even like Kaguya is in a theater club, and a lot of people respect Miyuki.
Yeah.
And as you get along with the second season, especially because I would argue that the second season really, really ties in Ishigami and the ethos of the show too.
Well, because like I said, like with the first season, the setup is that it's pretty much played for laughs
back and forth
until the end.
Back and forth.
And it's the same thing in the second season.
Yeah.
It's pretty much played for laughs until you get into Ishigami's past.
Yeah.
And then it gets really serious.
Yeah.
And you see why he is the way he is and how the president came in and stepped in and saved him.
Yeah, and the club as well. Like even though he's Ishigami, one of the best gags of the show is that he's deathly afraid of Kaguya. There's 2 episodes where Kaguya drops her guard and helps out Ishigami.
Well, there's a running gag where he gets side-eye. He not even side-eye, but he essentially gets, like threatened by Chika or Kaguya. And he tells the president, "I'm going home." He's like, "I'm gonna die."
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
That's my favorite running gag because all the characters have the freak out moment, but they just have to leave the council. They run out. Mind you, the council room is like near the opposite side of the school. For all I know, it's his own island, and this hallway is like a character in itself too because they're preparing to go in the room. Something about the room makes them the worst versions of themselves. It just cracks me up. And every time they go in that room, they're changed to a different person. Chika's running. Kaguya just like, and even as Miyuki, a calm and cool and collected president, he
runs out. Yeah.
The most.
He's like, "Well, I don't understand the situation."
Because part of setup 2 is the playful nature of it. And all characters are in their best form and the worst form. Even Chika, the bubbly and lovely Chika, she's the president of the games club. And this is part of the theme of the show too. Like, love is ultimately a game. She brings up these games in ridiculous fashion because, like Edwin said, try to ease in the situation, but also for the viewer to show that, we're having a good time here.
Well, I think this show is the ultimate expression of what you just said, that love is a game.
It is.
And I think that you've watched enough, like when we were watching, I think we've talked about my teen romantic comedy is not what I expected.
I would argue that that's like the most straightforward romance out there.
Yeah, but you get the impression that this is, especially from that one, you get the impression that that is a war.
It is.
It's a game, and especially with that character, he really tries to, the way he plays things, he has that mindset. And so in Love is War, they kind of take that and make it into something funny.
Yeah. And genuinely funny. And even though the premise and everything else is a parody of itself, oh my God, the timing and cues and the skits and everything else they do.
It's hilarious.
Extremely.
I mean, it's perfect. The writing is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, from all the characters, the narrator cracks me up.
Yeah,
When-
even the English one, he kind of like has a different tone compared to the Japanese one.
Yeah.
And even one instance, he's just like chuckling. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my god.
Oh, he's laughing.
Yeah.
Well, I think in the Japanese one is a little bit more.
You laugh with him, kind of thing.
You laugh with him. He's more. I think he's a little bit more. He comes across as being a little bit more sympathetic
Yeah,
and a little bit more like, "Oh, aren't they cute?"
yeah.
Where the English VA is like, "Oh my God, these people are unbelievable." He's like, "I can't with them.
Yeah.
I can't with them." Yeah. And when he says, there's a moment where he's talking about Miyuki's sister Kay, and he says she's a mother flipping tsundere. I was cracking up, man. I was cracking up.
Yeah,
That
and-
was hilarious.
Yeah, and that's the other thing about the show. Like we're trying to mention with the first season. First season is ultimately these characters barely get interaction with other characters. You kind of see the principal in the background. Yeah, things like that. The school is still a character in its own right because of the dynamics of the central characters. The second season eases you in more with the school because the second season, Miyuki, after summer vacation, Miyuki decides, you know what, I'm not going to be president.
He studies all the time.
Yeah.
He works a job, and he's the student council president.
Yeah.
So it's a lot on him. So he served his term, but the problem is that Kaguya doesn't want this to end.
No.
She loves being, she loves him.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
And-
that becomes pretty obvious
And it's sweet.
to everybody except her and the student council, which doesn't speak well of them.
No.
Hayasaka, her maid, has totally realized this
And
and has tried to help her with it and is exasperated by it.
And she's a fascinating character too. She's the first season. She's mostly background. She's the fixer for Kaguya. The second season, she definitely has a personality, and it's
it's more developed in the second season.
Going back to the second season, the transition.
So Miyuki wants to stop being the student council president.
Yeah.
But the problem is that Kaguya is realizing that she won't see him on a daily basis,
Nor anyone else.
and so this has kind of become later on. You get into the everyone else, as their friendships start to solidify, and she starts to realize that losing that would be really heartbreaking for her.
Pretty much their friendships are solidified after the fireworks arc kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because of the end of summer vacation, there was this cute little moment where Mayuki and Kaguya share a moment looking at the moon. And who doesn't want to give that up?
Which he was so fascinated and into what he was talking about that he spews some of the most romantic things that she's ever heard
and sways,
and she just loses it.
Oh, she's just
like, I can't take this.
She's looking at him the whole time. He tucks her back, kind of like a dance, dips her down. Oh, see the moon from this angle,
and she's just like, what's happening?
It's total smooth.
She's scheming again.
Yeah,
she's scheming, and so she thinks he's scheming, but then she realizes that he's so enamored with the moon that he's not even paying attention to her schemes. And so in that way, he wins.
Yeah.
He wins that round.
According to the scoreboard.
Yeah.
But in his mind, he's thinking Mr. Cringeworthy.
He's like, why did I say all those cringy things?
Exactly. And this is a beautiful aspect of the show because it's personal. It's very personal.
Oh, yeah.
And we've all had that dealt in battles with love. And
well, because we say things, and I think we're our own worst critics.
Especially with relationships.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Like, we say something, and we think, oh, my God, that was the stupidest thing I could have said.
Yeah.
And nobody even thinks that. If they were even paying attention to what we were saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, even though that sweet little moment of them hanging out more and more, it might have to end.
Well, she even struggles with like what to call him.
Yeah.
Because this entire time she's been calling him president.
Yes.
And he tells her, you don't need to call me that anymore. And she's like, oh my God. She's like, what am I going to call him?
Yeah. And back to Japanese society with formalities, the last name mentioned over the first name.
Well, she's totally taken aback when Chika and you are just calling him, like making up nicknames and pet names for him. And she's like, how are they doing this?
My favorite
How
was-
is this possible?
My favorite was Ishigami, because he's like, oh, hey, Miyu.
She's like, what? So she starts trying to say it. She can't.
She can barely say the first syllable.
Yeah, because
And-
she's so nervous.
And it's how set up so gorgeous, because she's just like kind of like hiding her mouth saying,
Well, her thought process is like, if I call him that, he'll think that I like him. And it's just like, these two spiral out of control
oh yeah.
all the time.
And yeah, then it's a wonderful sequence, because it's set up like that. Like she can't even say president. Like there's obvious longing for him to stay in this position.
Well, it's she wants to see him and her friends on a daily basis. The student council is how they interact with each other.
Only time,
And-
mostly, yeah.
Yeah, because they have other things going on in their lives.
Yeah.
She has her archery, and so they won't really see each other if not in this case. And so she really wants him to be president. And so he kind of surprises her by the fact that he's like, I know. And so he shows her the form where he's running again.
Yeah.
And so because you realize he wants that too. He wants to spend time with them. And we get into more hilariousness with the race itself,
Yeah.
which is absolutely ridiculous, because this little character, and it's one of my favorite moments in the show, where they take these two characters and they kind of do like a Snoopy reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
What Edwin's talking about is because the second season, pretty much the main focus is this election, re-election for Miyuki. He handpicks, Kaguya to help out his speeches and stuff, and Chika's kind of like in between, and Ishigami is kind of like he's more of the foil in this one, because he does not like the opponent. And mind you, she's a first year. Her name is Miko, and she's
Miko Ino, yeah.
And she's an interesting character, and similar to Miyuki, she's a very smart kid, but intense, very intense.
What follows the structure of the first season?
Yeah.
The introduction of a new character.
What's interesting about it is that you want to think twice, like it's almost like a cameo, but it becomes more of a factor of the show.
Oh yeah, she becomes another member of the student council.
Yeah, and she gets help from Kobachi, the glasses wearing girl, and it's kind of cute.
Yeah,
and they have a good dynamic. And what Edwin mentioned with the Peanuts reference, that's those two characters.
That's a cute little scene
and
for those two.
That's why we've been trying to get back with this show too, because the art direction's through the roof.
Oh, this show is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
There's never a moment where I'm like, yeah, I can't even describe to you. Like, it's just it's so well done.
Yeah, and the director, or the actual director himself, is Mamoru Hatikama. He's done not a lot of stuff, and oh my god, I'm like, I had to look through his resume. I'm like, he didn't do like a lot of noteworthy stuff. This was his time to shine in a weird way.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, or he did majority of episodes, so it's almost like, man, like with a vision like that, with through a manga like that, and like, that's tremendous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it shows in every aspect of the show.
Yeah.
The music, the art direction, the writing, the performances.
Yeah.
It's just everything is like, everything's awesome.
Man.
Yeah. And I love the introduction of Miku, because it just paves the way for more misunderstandings.
Oh yeah.
And she talk about running away from that room. Every time she walks into that room, it's into a conversation where you're just like, what is even happening?
Yeah.
So there's one scheme.
Well, first, like, basically with the arc with the election, Miku loses because she's technically a first year. She doesn't know, like, the whole gist of it. The president's too popular.
Well, Miku loses because she's too strict.
Yeah.
She's too much of a stickler for the rules, and people just don't want to. She recommends that the boys shave their heads.
Yeah.
And it's like, nobody's like, what is this? This isn't 1950s Japan. This is like, yeah.
Well, she kind of has a thing for that.
Which puts her right into which makes her perfect for the student council, because.
And this is a show that sneaks in all the little things. Let's put it that way.
So there's a hilarious moment where Kaguya comes up with the plan of giving the president a hand massage. She's like, I'll be touching him, which is, at this point she wants to. And then she's like, he'll owe me. And so she's got her little scheme, she's got her little plan, and to try to get his confession.
Yeah.
Only thing is, she's never given a hand massage before. She's never massaged anybody before.
Yeah.
So she's terrible at it. And it's actually painful for him.
Yeah.
And so he's kind of begging her to stop.
Yeah.
She's like, ow, ow. And so he's making these pain noises. And she's like, wait, let me do your back. And so Miku walks in. And so she thinks that, Kaguya is kind of like this dominatrix and the president is into pain. And so she's like, oh my God. So she runs away. And there's a conversation with her and Kobachi where she's like, they're terrible. And so she's like, and Kobachi is like, well, maybe you're just misunderstanding the situation.
Exactly.
And so that's where Miku starts to get her own exaggerations and misunderstandings.
Even worse than before.
And she's like, it's all Kaguya. It's all Kaguya's scheme.
Similar to Ishigami.
Yeah. It's like, oh, it's all Kaguya's scheme. And Kobachi's like, I don't think so. I think you're but no, Miku is gone. And so as she starts to acclimate to what's going on, there's a moment where she opens the door, hears something absolutely like out of context, just closes the door. She doesn't even walk in. She doesn't react. She's just like, oh my God, closes the door and walks away.
In a way, it's like it got to a point where you didn't even notice Ishigami still tugging the fourth wheel, and you're like, okay, I guess we'll get used to it. And you get more than used to it.
Yeah.
And with Miko's case, yeah, perfect.
Well, she becomes a part of the group.
Yeah.
She becomes a part of the group. They all become friends. And but it's just the misunderstandings start to get more and more ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
And I love that Miyuki and Kaguya are not on the same page at all anymore.
Nope.
Miyuki is still like, oh my God, this is the schemes. We're trying to get the confession. Kaguya is falling apart. She can't handle the fact that she's totally in love with him.
Yeah.
And that whole segment where she passes out because like
he found a piece of lint on her hair.
Yeah, he touches her hair and she just passes out.
Yep.
And she goes to the hospital. She's like, she wants to run a bunch of tests. And the doctor's like, well, what's going on in your life? And she's like, she won't say.
But the maid.
Oh, Hayaka is like, oh. And then Kaguya just gets totally upset. You've betrayed me. It's like, oh, God. This gets so crazy.
And her stubborn pride is like, mind you, this doctor is like a top doctor, friend of the family. And she's like, no, it has to be heart disease. I'm supposed to die.
And he's like, no, you're just in love.
You're in love.
Yeah. And she's not having it.
He made a comment like, this is the first time I ever had to tell somebody this.
Well, because she's so sheltered, and it's perfect, dude. It's just so adorable.
It's almost like you're not ready for these moments, and the humor is supposed to, like, that's the thing.
Oh, they catch you off guard.
That's my critique with SNL and stuff. Like, when you're younger, you love SNL. Like, the guys are funny, the silly moments, John Belushi and things like that. But as you get older and like, it kind of wears thin. You're like, okay, when's the humor? When's the crime? Like, comedies are becoming more and more a rare genre for me in general, not only in anime, but general films too. There's ones that catch you off guard, and then there's like dramatic or even horror movies that have like some of the funniest things imaginable.
Yeah, they have moments. Yeah.
But the thing about Love is War is like it doesn't care. It tells you right off the bat you're gonna have a good time watching this, and it doesn't mess around.
No, it's the absolute ridiculousness.
Yeah.
And it starts to get more and more ridiculous, but not in a stupid way.
No.
And not in a like we don't care anymore way. It's just like the situations become more and more exaggerated because there's so many, they keep adding people, and so there's more and more misunderstandings. And as Kaguya's heart softens more and more, it's just like it's just insane. It's insanity.
And then it has that halt. Like, okay, it's almost like that's part of the pacing genius of the show.
Because that switch.
The switch. Like, no, we're going to talk about Ishigami's past. Like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Then, the tenderness of Kaguya. Like, those moments.
Losing her phone.
Losing her phone to just like seeing her, like Edwin mentioned, just falling apart. Like, I can't handle this battle anymore.
Yeah.
And
She is losing.
She is losing.
Yep.
And that's the beautiful thing about the show too. It's not over yet.
No.
We
Yep.
only got 2. We as of this recording, we're just before season 3.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I know.
I'm so excited for this. I kind of can't contain my excitement
No.
because
And during our spring preview, the reason why it was so low because I had it like number 4. I know. Everyone's shaking his head as we speak.
Jack.
It's because I'm hoping there will be another season. There's for the manga series in America, it's up to volume 19. That's a healthy number. It's past Attack on Titan territory in my book, so I'm hoping for a very small season 3, so I can watch more later.
The creator doesn't know how he's going to end it.
Yeah.
Yet when I had read about this, when I was doing the research on Wikipedia, the director had said the creator of the manga, he wasn't sure how he was going to end it.
Yeah.
And that scares me because if you watch this show, you're going to have your hopes and dreams for these characters. I want to see them together.
And I don't want it to end.
Nobody wants it to end.
Yeah.
This is, it's so well done. It's so funny. The characters are so, lovable. And it takes that kind of like annoying will they, won't they, and turns it into like this kind of like, you're like, yeah, that's there, but we're being entertained so much.
Too much.
Too much to care about will they or won't they.
Yeah.
But you can't help but think that, yeah, I want this to happen. But you're scared because, like, yeah, they are from 2 different worlds. And she does have her, her responsibilities.
Obligations, yeah.
Her obligations. And he's like, will they, won't they? And so it's becoming more of a concern for me because it's like, I will be really upset if they don't end up together.
I know.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. Like, I'm hoping for like a nice, sweet little season 3, maybe a couple more characters, maybe the same beat for beats. I'm hoping like not to have my heart like enclosed if it ends because I'm hoping for at least a season 4.
Jack,
I know all good things must end.
This is Japanese animation.
I know. We're talking about the same country that made Trigon.
We could do a whole we could do a whole episode just talking about studios and the rights and how things work out. But we're not going to do that right now because we're talking about this really awesome show. We're lucky enough to have had 2 seasons. We're getting a 3rd season. So we're going to be happy, Jack.
Yeah, and that 3rd season's their birthday present.
This whole season is my birthday present. This whole April season.
Yeah.
Because there's so many shows that are coming back that I'm excited about. And I'm kind of losing my mind.
I know. It's too much. Because, mind you, we were recording just as cusp of April. And it's like, here we go. Here we go.
This is like April 2nd.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, man, time flies.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, we can't recommend this show enough. Like, I know it's part of me wants to explain each sketch, but you have to see it for yourself, kind of thing.
Well, we could spend a few hours talking about all the different sketches. Like, there's even the ending of the 2nd season where they're putting air into one of the balloons from the sports festival.
And that's the final gag.
Yeah, because it plays back to the beginning, the opening where the school blows up.
Yep.
And so they keep putting air into that balloon with the bicycle pump until it explodes, and the whole school explodes.
Oh man!
And they're left there, with the wind blowing with the demolished remains of the school, and it's hilarious because it's a little send off just in case there wasn't a 3rd season. You get all the characters. They show where all the characters are. All the little groups that they've developed, the couple that they gave advice to, Hayasaka
and Miko and Kobayashi.
Yeah, so they show them all, and then at the end, it's Kaguya and Miyuki facing off against each other, prepared for battle.
They're at it again.
Yeah, and so I thought that was adorable. Yeah.
Well, a few things to add as well. Because it's one of those special shows. Like, even though it's Edwin's birthday episode, Edwin special, it's all like I have to mention too. This is Jack's number 1 romance and number 1 in comedy.
Okay.
And the second season I love adorably. It was my number 3 though. My number 2 is Inspector Number 1 Sing Yesterday. But at the same time, I'm thinking about like like if I had to choose, I don't know who to choose.
The second season is probably one of the funniest anime. It's probably one of the funniest shows I've ever seen.
Yeah. And one thing we did mention in our spring preview setting up for season 3, uh, this show is almost Shakespearean. And it's one of those curious comments I was thinking about, like, what exact Shakespeare play or work technically is technically an influence for Love is War? And that would be Taming of the Shrew. That's the closest of the bunch. And I just wanted to give a quick little thing from the actual book itself. And this is from the adaptation from Barbara Mowat and Paul Werstein. And basically, Taming of the Shrew is set up as the character's Bianca. She's silent and perfectly obedient to her father. And then Lucentio is pretty much the opposite. He's a gentleman through and through. And that's pretty much like Miyuki because he wants to give it all for Bianca. And there's little things like that. It makes me want to read every Shakespeare play.
Well, we've talked about, I think that when Japanese animation, when they're looking for, when the writers, the manga writers, because a lot of these shows are, well, a good majority of these shows are based off of manga. And I think when the writers are looking for material that they're inspired by,
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about, especially this year, a lot of the shows that we've talked about, we've found literary references, whether they're actually speaking about the references that helped to create the show, like with Psychopaths.
Yeah.
Or like the other shows where we can make those comparisons and where we see those comparisons, like with Paranoia Agent. I think it's just, when you're creating something, there's definitely the things that inspired you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then another note with the music and everything, we have to give a quick shout out to Masayuki Suzuki. He's had a long career. In the Daddy Daddy Do and Love is War.
Daddy Daddy Do is so good.
Daddy Do.
That actually won the Crunchyroll
for that year. Yeah. And
best opening.
Yeah, and the art is tremendous in that too. And I prefer Love is War, the song and the opening and the closing as well. And basically
the first season, yeah.
Yeah, and he's a very fascinating voice because he reminds me of Edwin Collins. I never met a girl like you before. Kind of like a loungy, kind of like swingy.
It definitely, that opening, definitely, like we talked about, it definitely has like that James Bond 1960s feel to it.
Yeah, and even the score itself, because it's all over the place. It gets to like 80s synth poppy, even has like a Madonna reference thrown in there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, with Pose. And every time like Kaguya has like this moment with Miyuki, it has a guitar break. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And this is the music guy we're talking about. And like moments like that, I'm like, that's top tier. That's
this show is firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the gods of the slice of life romantic comedy gods
blessed us.
Here is a gift for you,
I know,
sir.
Well, speaking of which,
Yes.
if you had to pick your favorite moment of the show, what would be it? Because this is your birthday special. I want to make sure this is on air.
There's so many.
I know.
It's hard to pick one.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I have so many. There's so many moments in this show.
The cat ears episode.
I mean, the cat ears. Even I love the training montage. The training montages with Miyuki and Chika.
Yeah, those are tremendous.
Those are tremendous. They remind me of like those 80s training montages. They're perfect.
Rocky.
Yeah, they're perfect. Or even when he's trying to learn the dance.
Oh yeah.
For the sports festival, and they're just pulling him back and forth, and he's like, "Wait, I understand how the net felt." It's hilarious, but it's so adorable.
Yeah.
But like the fireworks, when I think that's probably my favorite moment.
Aww.
When they're so they've missed the fireworks, but there's another fireworks show that's going on that's a little bit later. So They all grab a taxi. They jump into the taxi, and they're driving down the expressway, and they can see the fireworks happening almost right outside the window.
That's gorgeous.
And everybody leans over, and they're looking out the window, and Miyuki is like pressed against Kaguya because they're all trying to see out the window, and they're all oohing and eyeing because the fireworks are so awesome.
Yeah.
But not Kaguya. Kaguya can't start her heart from racing because the man that she loves is there with her and pressed up against her.
Yeah.
And so she's not even looking at the fireworks. She's looking at his face reacting to the fireworks.
Too sweet.
And it's like it's heartbreakingly adorable. Yeah.
And my favorite would be Kaguya when she gets her phone and she's trying to get that text.
That's the first text. Yeah, she's waiting. She's like, "When is he gonna text me?"
And this is the part of the show that, like I mentioned, somehow, somebody you can't help but have your own feelings. So at least your own battles with love and stuff like that.
Well, that's an important moment too, because you see the difference from the first season to the second season.
Yeah.
Where the first season they're both scheming. At the end of the second season, when he gets his new phone and he's like, I should ask her for information. So he starts his mind is doing it again. He's like, oh, but if I do this or I do that, she's gonna do this and she's gonna do that. And he's totally blowing out of proportion, totally freaking out. And she just walks up, can I have your info? And he's like, sure. And then he's like, wait, what just happened?
The taking it back moments. And then with texting, that you eerily relate to that because we all had that moment of like, should I text him first? Should I? That was a playful way of like modernizing, like love is still a battle, like when you subconsciously know it or not.
Yeah, she's lost.
She's lost.
She's lost. She's totally in love and she can't. Her mind is not working anymore. There's a moment where Hayasaka says, where she's totally acting, Kaguya is totally acting like a little kid.
Yeah.
And Hayasaka's like, what is wrong with you? And so she comes
just
back.
The narrator.
She comes back and she's like, all right, I can do this. And she's like, there's the genius I know.
Aww.
Yeah. Please watch this show.
Oh, God, like that might be our commandment, like our first commandment.
Yes.
Like something about the show, like why we give it so much praise and so much love is that this is a show that you have to experience on your own.
It's so well done.
Yeah.
And I don't think that you'll regret this. Just the time it will take. And like when I was watching this for the podcast, I started to take notes. Halfway through the first season, I gave up on that.
I was a little bit disappointed. I up to the final arcs.
I blew through this show.
Yeah.
I watched it like I was like, all right, I'm gonna watch 2 episodes a day, keep up my schedule. No, that went out the window. I stayed up late watching like half the first season.
I finished the first season second season one day.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that because it's just so good. I'm like, I can't take notes on this show.
Oh, impossible.
I'm too busy watching the show. And I'm even talking about the English dub.
Yeah.
Usually with the with the Japanese dub, I'm trying to read and take notes at the same time. It's a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
With the English dub, I had to give up because I'm just laughing and responding and reacting, and I'm like, I can't take notes. I want to watch the show.
I was so torn because the English, I only listened to 2 episodes. It was the man horror episode, and
that was so good. Yeah. Oh my god,
the acting was really good, and it all sounded familiar. And I would have a disservice not to mention these actors, because for Miyuki for the English we have Aaron Desmuki. For Japanese, Makoto Furukawa. For Chika, we have Konomi Kohara and Jade Saxton. Then for Ishigami, we have Austin Tyndall, who I really liked. He was really good in it. And Ryuto Suzuki as well. Like, this is top tier cast. And yes, my all-time favorite thing in the whole wide world, Kaguya's voice actress is Oi Koga, who's also the same voice as Komi, and Komi can't communicate.
Yay.
Yeah, and the English is no slouch either. Her name is Alexis Tipton.
Yeah, no, they're amazing. I mean, yeah,
This show I had
both voice casts. Yeah.
yeah, this show I had to give the proper kudos, and even with the creator of the manga, Aka Akasaka, thank you very, very much.
Thank you for creating this show. I cherish it. It's this is a birthday present to me. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for tuning in to another great 950 Club episode. This is the Edwin birthday special, so next week we're going to have one of his all-time favorites, Rascal Does Not Dream, Budding Girl Senpai. Oh yeah, this is an extra special gift for Edwin, and we thank him. I thank him every day because, yeah, without him, this podcast would not be here. So he puts in a lot of hard work, especially with his art and his commentary. Yeah, I can't help it. I love the man, and I love that he's doing this with me. So hope you check in next week's episode. It's going to be extra special. Goodbye.
Hey guys, since we had so much fun last time, we decided to keep the party going. Edwin's birthday celebration continues with our discussion of Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai. Woohoo! And now back to Edwin's birthday special. We're going to be talking about another one of my favorite slice of life shows. This one's a little bit different than Kaguya-Sama Love is War. It's called Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai.
Which is a quite fascinating choice and contrast towards Love is War, because this one's more of like a bittersweet type of romance.
It is. I love this show, but it's an emotional gut punch. It is a slice of life, but as every other show that we tend to focus on, it's a little bit different than your standard slice of life. Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai takes the romantic slice of life and turns it upside down by adding the adolescent syndrome, which is kind of an explanation for these urban myths that they explore in scientific ways.
Paradoxes, ultimately.
Yeah, so you're not really ready for what this show throws at you, because it does get weird. It gets weird in kind of like a X-Files, kind of like Twilight Zone kind of way. So you're not ready for that, but it handles it extremely well.
And it's only for plot purposes, ultimately. It's not like It Invaded, where it explores the ethos and the mythicism and the science behind.
Well, no, because that's not the point. The point of this show is being a teenager and dealing with the angst and things that surround being a teenager.
Yeah.
The emotions, the relationships, how dealing with school, dealing with reality, dealing with the pressures of changing from, from being a child to being a teenager to being an adult. And those things are all at play here. But what this show decides to do with those is it takes this adolescent syndrome and it takes these urban myths and legends and turns it into plot points for the show and things for the characters to deal with and it's traumatizing for them.
And it's fascinating because you mentioned as a myth, like a urban legend kind of thing.
Mhm.
I was questioning about that for a second viewing, at least, because first one I'm like, okay, it's almost like Chernobyl. It's almost like every teenager goes through the angst, especially in anime.
Yeah.
But this time around, I'm like,
what's the exact opposite of Chernobyl, in that in Love, Chernobyl and Other Delusions, the focus is on the fact that those things aren't real.
yeah,
Those fantasy aspects that Rika chooses to focus on in her delusions are not real. That's the main point of the show.
yeah.
In Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, it's the exact opposite. They make those things real, and they don't do it to the extreme that they don't have the fantasy battles or anything like that.
Or Rika in her own right.
I'm not. It doesn't get that extreme. With this show takes a more serious focus on it, but does it in this balanced way.
In a sly way
Yeah.
too, because the dialogue is like, I would argue, is like pretty much the show itself.
The dialogue is like, oh my god, I love the dialogue in this show. The back and forth between the characters is like something out of like a 1940s, 1950s Hollywood film.
Yeah,
It's absolutely amazing. Like the quick way that the quick wit that they have and the way that they respond to each other is one of the highlights of this show. I mean, like you'll be sitting there. There is no English translation, so you'll have to watch the Japanese. I think there's a German translation, uh, but you'll have to watch the Japanese. But even just reading this show, even reading the subtitles, I found myself were moments where I'm laughing, I'm crying, I'm sympathizing with these characters, and it's just because that dialogue is so good.
yeah, and it started off as a light novel, if I'm not
Mhm.
mistaken, and the manga itself is a whole big volume kind of thing because of the
Yeah.
light novel, or one season worth of 13 episodes, and then the movie as well. Me and Edwin did not watch the movie, but it's one of those things where when we do, we will.
Yeah.
It's not no shame with the show how it ends, but it's also how it ends.
Well,
How,
that's the movie is definitely on my to-do list. It's one of those things, and I think we talked about this before. It's one of those things that I'm saving for when I'm emotionally ready.
oh yeah,
It's like, okay, I'm gonna need a pick me up, but I'm also a little. There's a little bit of trepidation because this show is so well done that you get caught up in it. You
yeah,
get caught up in their relationships. You get caught up in everything that happens to these characters, and it's emotionally charged. And by the end of the show, I found myself really sympathizing with all of the characters, and there's a few gut punches along the way, and it wasn't hard to watch, but I have my own personal reasons for why I reacted the way I did to this show, and it gets a little bit heavy, but at every moment it's entertaining.
yeah.
Yeah,
And now, with that said, we'll have to start from the beginning.
to talk about Rascal does not dream of Bunny Girl Senpai.
Now, the title itself. This little rascal. Who is this rascal? Why, that's Sakura. And Sakura is not a typical rascal, I would argue. He's more like the anti rascal.
So let's get into it. Like he has experienced this adolescent syndrome. It gets kind of complicated. So he is kind of like the outcast. Kind of shows it in the way that his girlfriend, his best friend's girlfriend reacts to him, like stay away from my boyfriend.
Yeah.
She doesn't want him to interact because she doesn't want him to catch any of the negativity, the atmosphere
Yeah.
that Sakura has accumulated by not correcting the misunderstanding that people have about him. So something happens to his sister. She's bullied at school, and when she comes home, these cuts
Appear out of nowhere.
appear out of nowhere on her body.
Yeah.
And so they take her to the hospital, and when she awakens from this, she's completely and totally lost her memories
Yeah.
to the point where she's an entirely new person. Kade.
She becomes more of a child, let's put it that way.
Well, yeah, because it's like she doesn't really have the memories of growing up.
Yeah. And I believe around 14 or 15 years old. So we're
Yeah.
talking like she's acting like a 5 or 6 year old.
It's almost a disability.
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening to him is the stress of this situation causes him to have kind of like this adolescent syndrome thing where these cuts appear on him as well.
Yeah, but it's more stronger. It's like a
Yeah.
tiger scratch, like
Yeah.
tiger
Like
claws,
claw marks.
claw
Yeah.
marks through the chest. Yeah,
Yeah. So when he goes to the hospital, they don't believe his explanation that they just appeared in the night.
yeah, because they look self-inflicted. Yes.
Yeah, they believe that he has done it to himself, and so they don't believe him. And so at school, he hasn't told them any explanation, but they are aware of it, and so they've decided that they call it the hospitalization incident. They've decided that he actually got those scars from sending other people to the hospital. That he beat people up and sent them to the hospital. So the rest of the school views him as a delinquent, and he just doesn't care enough to dissuade them of that.
Yeah,
He is okay with being alone.
yeah, and that's a fascinating thing about the show because this protagonist, It's the typical like loner trope in anime. I get
Yeah.
it. We just discussed Love is War, and that's like Ishigami is pretty much a parody of that. The self righteousness is not apparent with them, which is an excellent like take in Love is War.
Yeah.
This one, I don't want to argue self righteous. He's just more like done with it. He just
I agree. I don't want to say that there's a disdain for normal people, for for the group think or the atmosphere as they call it in this
yeah
show. I don't think there's a disdain for it. It's just that he has more important things going on. Yeah, between him and it's like with what him and his sister have gone through, it's kind of like, okay, I'm over that.
yeah
He's like, I'm dealing with issues at home. So when this happens, their mother freaks out. Like she can't handle this. Like she has a breakdown.
yeah.
And so the father, in true Japanese anime fashion, they end up living alone. Sakura and Kade end up in their own apartment with him taking care of his little sister.
And he's a high school student.
And he's a high school student with a job.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so it's like, it's never easy.
And
It's never easy.
And it's quite fascinating. And
Yeah.
second time viewing, like those little things, like thinking about if American society, if that were a thing, it would be like child services,
Yes, definitely.
Unfortunately, but there's a weird like thing where in high school, ultimately, you do grow up.
Well, I think there's definitely there's more of a maturity level placed on them
Precisely.
than their American counterparts. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah. Well, I think that it's a stressful time because this is when it is, I think those last those 2 years of high school, that time when they're kind of pushed into adulthood.
yeah.
Like
yeah.
this is the time. You decide now. This is what are you going to do?
Exactly.
Yeah, and moving forward, college is like a specific thing, but I think that this is crunch time for them.
Very much
Yeah.
so. And with the setup, like this is the background for Sakura because he's nonchalant about it, even with that kind of with the girlfriend, because the girlfriend was with one of his friends, Yuma. And Yuma's like this opposite.
The jock.
The jock, the
Yeah.
pretty boy. And
The jock pretty boy.
and he's smart in
Yeah.
his own right. And he's cash and cool about it. And it's like, oh, we'll meet up later.
Well, I like how he's just like really like a background character,
Also,
but at the same time, he is like
you kind of
Sakura's
don't.
best friend.
Yeah, you kind of accept him as one of the main characters in,
Yeah.
in your own way, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
that's what's so fascinating about
And
it.
he's there, but he's kind of like there, like in like Fred and Scooby. You know,
Yeah.
That show's just Shaggy and Scooby, but Fred just happens to be there.
Fred gets it going along.
Yeah. So he's kind of the same way in that regard.
Very cool. Yeah.
And this show does have a Scooby Gang feel to it.
A little bit.
A little bit.
A smidge. I
Yeah.
agree. I would agree.
Yeah, because of the adolescent syndrome
Yes,
thing
yes.
going on. And we'll get into that with Fatuba, because she's absolutely adorable. And this show creates these cute, adorable scenes in the midst of all this seriousness. But let's get into Mai. Let's talk about Mai and how he meets her, how Sakura meets her. So he's at the library and he sees this girl in a bunny suit. And he's like, what is going on?
We were talking about 1960s type Playboy pinup model
Yeah.
with the bunny hat. Like
Which so many anime do, yeah.
Well, this one, I would argue, like, because like when me and Edwin first got into this, we both got it at the same time, kind of thing, but we didn't recommend it to each other. It was a natural, like, this is cool. I didn't really think about that trope per se.
Well, because there's that trope that exists, but that's one of the cool things about Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai.
I would agree.
They use it as a plot device, and it's there for a reason, and the reason is like really sad and tragic.
And ultimately, what they're trying to tell you, what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're kind of playing on Sakura's, I don't want to say his perversion because he's not, but his natural like desire. He's a teenage boy, and so he's going through those things, and so he finds this very attractive.
Yeah, and similar to with the viewer and stuff, seeing a beautiful girl in a pinup bunny outfit. Come on, this is like a guy's fantasy 101.
Yeah,
but ultimately, plays out in the scene at the library is that she is trying to get attention.
Yeah, and this is where we get into the first case of the adolescent syndrome. Mai Sakurajima is actually a student at Sakura's high school, and but she's also a very famous child star who left acting because of a situation. So her mom was her manager, and they had signed a contract to do a swimsuit. And she was much younger at the time, so this wasn't something that she wanted to do.
Yeah.
But because they had signed the contract and the swimsuit was there, this was something that she was forced to do. And that's when she parted ways with her mom as her manager and stopped doing film work,
Yeah.
film, television, acting, modeling. She left that behind. The only problem now is that she's disappearing from reality. Literally, more and more people. Essentially, what's happening is that they're forgetting that she exists. So in her mind, she has put on the bunny girl suit because who could ignore this?
Yeah.
In her mind, she thinks, who can ignore a bunny girl suit? So she goes to the library dressed as a bunny girl, and no one's paying attention to her
Except
Sakura. Sakura sees her.
And it's a wonderful setup. Like, this is on Netflix, by the way. And the setup with the preview, you know how you see episode previews of the show and stuff.
Mhm.
It has Sakura looking at a light novel. Then you see a woman's body in a bunny outfit walking through, and then you see her kind of like posing around, and then sure enough, she has a nice little like one hand on her hip type of like sexy pose, and Sakura is just like gawking,
What is happening? Yeah.
gawking. And then my nonchalance, like, oh, you can notice me.
Yeah.
And
She's like,
she's not shocked, but this is part of the syndrome where, you know, she's finally noticing and she appreciates it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, ew, perv.
yeah. Like, are you going to stare at me?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. She's not happy with
And
it.
that instant is the chemistry.
Yeah.
And this is
Well, it goes back to that writing and the relationship and the quick wit, like I was mentioning earlier, when they respond to each other. It's just so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they don't miss a beat.
Similar to Love is War with the timing, it's impeccable.
Yes.
This one's good timing wise with the dialogue, even better than Love is War. In that aspect alone.
Yeah.
Whereas Love is War is more dry comedy sketches.
Well, it's with with Love is War. It's more about the exaggerations and the schemes and the misunderstandings. With this show, the dialogue is just them responding to each other so quickly and in such unexpected and funny ways that you're just like, oh my god, I can't believe they just said that. Yeah.
But we also are introduced to the Sakura's kind of like quest. Let's put it that way.
Well, he wakes up one morning and there's a notebook on his desk. And so that I think that's part of the reason he goes to the library, because in the dates are important for this show.
And the seasons too.
Yeah, the seasons and the date, because this show it takes from March, I believe, until almost December where the show plays out. And the dates become important because of some of the plot points that occur. And so when he wakes up, there's a note to himself from the future. He's like, hey, you met this girl, you can't forget her. And so he finds a note. He's like, what is this? And it's a note from himself from the future, which is part of the adolescent syndrome, which is like crazy and cool. And one of the things in this show that's easily forget, but it's like this show plays around with like time and like people's perception in ways that are like so unusual, especially in a slice of life romance, and that you're not expecting them.
And the key word, puberty syndrome, because it's kind of like a weird throw.
Puberty. I'm just calling it adolescent because
either or.
Yeah.
And ultimately, both of those, whether word may be, you would think like they would be the only ones experiencing this phenomenon, but it's more of real context. That's what we deal with every day.
Well, they run into people that are affected by it. Like the two main characters, Mai, because she's suffering from it, Sakura suffering from it,
has a little bit of experience with it, and he believes people that have it, and that's pretty much why they bound it.
Well, he's ready and open not only to believe them but to help them with their situations.
And it's almost like a self-righteous quest in its own right.
Well, he saves them, I think, because he understands.
Yeah,
and he does save everybody. Well, not you can't save everybody.
No. But
that's the sad part.
Oh yeah, and that's ultimately growing up too. And with this first arc though, with Mai, it's a perfect setup because this beautiful girl who's a celebrity, and being forgotten by the masses, which is ironic in its own right, because if you're ever a celebrity, you know, if you get the fame and fortune, but is it worth the cost?
Well, they discover that, yeah, they discover that the reason this is happening is because she has not interacted with anybody at school.
Yeah.
And so she's there, but she's not there because, and he realizes that, and they call it the atmosphere,
Yeah.
which is kind of weird, but it's just the general groupthink of the kids at school because here is this celebrity in their midst, but she hasn't really interacted with any of them. So they've kind of like, in order to deal with that situation, they've kind of secluded her. And as they've secluded her, she started to fade from their collective memories.
Yeah, and the key word with the celebrity aspect of it, because celebrities are people at the end of the day. You respect their space. I have many celebrity encounters where I didn't even want to see the person. I'm like, ah.
Well, and then celebrities do fade from your mind. I mean,
well, yeah.
when you there are people who I'm sure that at some point you thought about them and you haven't thought about them in years. And usually you hear about them when they release like a memoir or maybe in their passing, but they still exist without you thinking about them, but not in this case.
Exactly. Good point. Because they have all had a height of popularity. And we're talking, like a couple years ago, we had Lorde. Now it's Billie Eilish. Like celebrities come and go and things like that. And the question with celebrity as its own right is like you respect their privacy, but they still have their privacy shown to you. And this is Maya's dilemma because she has wanted, like, she doesn't want to deal with the agency anymore. She doesn't want to deal with the trouble of it in its own right, subconsciously, naturally. But guess what? She's literally disappearing, and she can't have that happen.
No. And so Sakuda falls for her. He falls for her hard.
Yeah.
And so he goes, and this is one of the cute aspects of this show because he has a friend, Fatsuba, Rio Fatsuba. Oh my God, she's so adorable.
She's the lab technician at the school.
Yeah. So essentially, she has a science club that she's pretty much the only member of.
It's perfect anime 101.
And the thing is that she doesn't do any experiments. She's always using the lab equipment to make coffee or cooking up snacks for them.
She's on her own. What else can you do?
You know, it's like, hey, nobody else is paying attention, so she can do whatever she wants. So he goes to consult her for scientific. He talks to her about the scientific, the adolescent syndrome. So she's kind of like his go-to Scully.
Yeah.
For the science facts and stuff. And it's so cute. And, you know, it gets serious, though. I mean, they have their moments where they get into discussions about, the first discussion is about Schrodinger's cat.
Yeah.
And how people perceive things and the observation theory. So this show does get into like these scientific principles of physics and you know, different things,
philosophy too, and,
and so it gets interesting, and you're like, and she talks about how she's kind of like the IT person who knows all the facts about science and stuff and can provide him with like these theories, and then he has to go back and try to figure out like, how do I deal with this?
To work it out. And like you mentioned with Schrodinger's cat, ultimately, is the cat in the box? That's the question. And with my case, is
the cat alive or dead?
Is that as well? Technically, is the cat alive or dead?
And since you can't observe it, the cat is definitely because you can't observe it. The cat is hypothetically in both states, alive and dead.
Yep. And it's a age-old kind of like science fiction type of plot device.
Oh yeah, I've seen that in so many.
Well, you mentioned
I saw it in Stargate and an episode of Stargate, and I know I've seen it other places. I can't recall right now.
Or different variations. Ultimately, the paradox element of play. And I was just telling Edwin this too. It's like kind of fascinating. People think about that now, at least this time and place, compared to like 30 or 40 years ago.
Yeah.
But ultimately,
well, I was really surprised to find it in and I shouldn't be because
anime goes.
These shows find inspiration everywhere.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But with this question mark, kind of was so relevant nowadays, especially in Maya's case. One of the leading factors of the show is social media.
Yeah.
your presence in the digital world.
Well, we were talking about that before we started recording because a lot of this comes into play, like when they talk about the atmosphere or the group think. We've seen that before. Like I've seen that in Toilet Bound Hananuko-kun.
Yeah,
We've seen it in Inspector.
Inspector
We saw it a little bit in It Invaded,
and Jujutsu Kaisen.
Jujutsu Kaisen, where the emotional state or thoughts or actions of the group have an effect on reality. And the effect that they're having on this reality is that Mai is disappearing from reality.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
how that's solved though is basically
It's absolutely
Yeah.
adorable.
So Sakura, like they had a key element with what Edwin said that Mai has to interact with the classmates. But how
Yeah.
do the classmates know? Here's the deal. Here's the deal breaker.
Well, she has to be dragged back into reality.
Yeah.
And so Sakura, essentially what he does is that he forgets her.
Yep.
It's really sad. He tries so hard. So he does a lot to try to prove her existence. He takes her to another town. He takes her all over the place and he can't fight it. He
Yeah.
can't stop it. It's getting too big for him. So Fatuba, she falls asleep and she forgets Mai. So he realizes I can't fall asleep. And so he's doing energy drinks and he's right in the middle of the testing period. So he's using it as an excuse, but Mai realizes what's going on. And so she drugs him
Yep.
so that he'll fall asleep. And she's like, and she tells him, you did the best that you could. She tells him you did the best that you could. And so she lets him fall asleep and he forgets her. And so he's at school, he's going about his business, and then Fatuba gives him a note that she had written. And so he realizes that he's forgotten her. He starts to go as he's doing a test question. No, it's actually the test question because it was something that they had studied together. It reawakens something in his mind, and he's like, he remembers her.
Yep.
And he's like, I have to figure out a way to get everybody to notice her. And so he runs out onto the field and he starts screaming his confession,
And it's
his
similar.
love confession.
Yes, it's similar to Say Anything with John Cusack in the boombox.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And that's a wonderful like sequence because ultimately how to be remembered in this world is for people. And
Yeah.
it wasn't profound for the first time I saw it because it was the melodrama aspect of it. Like, okay,
The teen angst, yeah.
the romance there. It could have ended there. That's the thing. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll give more kudos.
That was the perfect ending for that arc.
Yeah.
And I think it was, and I agree. It was on the second viewing, I took it a lot more seriously
Yeah.
as not only as him confessing his love for her, but also in that, are we defined by other people?
Exactly.
You know, it's like, is our existence defined by the people who love us and the people we interact with? And going back to his situation where he's defined by a misunderstanding, that it's a collective misunderstanding of what's happening to him. It defines like his status and place in society. And so he brings her back by defining her place in society, by someone who's being confessed to.
Yeah.
Whether that's good or bad, whether that defines her in what way, it still defines her as someone who's being confessed to. And that's something that everybody at the school can relate to and understand.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, we've gotten confessions. We know what that's like. And here this guy is confessing to a major celebrity. So that brings her back into their minds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
It
call.
reawakens that sense of like, yeah, she's a person. Not only is she a person, but she's a person we can relate to, because here's this buffoon out here screaming that he loves her. You know?
And yeah, it's almost like confessing your love to Natalie Portman or something like that.
Yeah, he's like,
I love you.
It's like, he's crazy. What is he doing? This is extreme.
Oh man.
Yeah. So that's the end of the first arc, and it's you get the introductions to
Yeah, and that's the one of the few criticisms that I have of this show.
Okay.
It's
Let me hear it.
It's because
Okay.
should we had like an opening towards the other syndromes right off the bat?
I don't think so, because I think that this is about him.
Yeah.
This is about him. This is about them. It's about them, but it's really about him. It's about him and how he deals with the different syndromes. And
Because for me, it was like it kind of needed easing because, like I said, it
well,
felt like
there's a lot going on in this show.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of like different unexplained things that are going on in this show, whether it be like his scars that were just randomly appeared.
yeah. Because
There's
that's a
yeah
long to unpack, and part of me felt like that
yeah.
should have been like continued on, at least been the main focus.
Well, I think that was the adolescent syndrome in reaction to the stress of essentially losing his little sister. I mean, yeah, she's alive, but she's a completely different person
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
That he's taking care of. And so that might have been his psychology expressing itself physically,
yeah.
without any control in his part.
No, but yeah, and this is where we're trying to get it because after that beautiful sequence, we're into the next one to deal
Well,
with.
see, this is where I think it's kind of funny because you're about to think that you're like, okay, so where can the show go from here?
Yeah,
Because
this is a third episode.
yeah, because it's like, what is this show gonna be? And the show is not gonna be what you think it's gonna be.
Straight up romance.
This doesn't, yeah, it's not gonna be a straight up romance.
Nope.
It's going to mess with you, and it's going to mess with the characters. It's like, you think you're gonna get together? Oh no, we're gonna, you're gonna have, like any romance, you're gonna have your foils.
Yeah.
You're gonna have your rivals. You're gonna have your foils, and you're introduced into this.
Paradox world.
You're introduced to essentially the first foil for their relationship,
That too.
which is Tomekoga.
Yeah.
And it's funny because they've already met, and it's through this misunderstanding where this only happens because they kicked each other's butts. And it's like there's no other way to explain it, but they did. They didn't fight. They physically kicked each other in the asses. And so it sets off a course of events that is very that Sakura has to deal with. It's really cute. It's really adorable. It's not what he wants at all.
No.
And it ends up being really sad.
Yeah, it's similar to Chica in a way that the third wheel technically is Koga,
Yeah.
and it's one of those things where it could have been in its own right A-okay, but the paradox is thrown in there.
Yeah.
And the paradox is interesting because it's called
Laplace's demon.
Laplace's demon.
Yeah. And so Sakura realizes that he's essentially pulling a Groundhog Day, just like the Bill Murray movie, where he's repeating the same day over and over again, and he has no clue as to what's going on.
Yeah.
And so Fatuba tells him, well, look and see who's acting differently. And he realizes that it's Tome Koga.
Oh, yes.
And so she is running away from a confession of love. She's this country bumpkin that moved to the city and adopted the fashion, the dialogue. She wanted to be a completely different person once she got to the city.
Yeah.
She's really concerned with how her friends think about her. She doesn't want to be alone. She doesn't want to be alone. She doesn't want to be an outcast. She doesn't want to be excluded. She essentially doesn't want to be Sakura.
Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't want to be him. So her friend is in love with this basketball player. The basketball player is a douche who wants to confess to her so that he can, get with her. She feels that will cause a rift within her clique, and so she's trying to avoid him at all costs. She has a special ability to essentially repeat the same day over and over again until she gets an outcome that she wants.
Yeah.
And so by kicking Sakura, and as recompense, letting him kick her in the butt, she's created a connection between the two of them, and they're now stuck in this loop. Sakura is having the perfect moment with Mai, where he's convinced her to be his girlfriend.
Yep.
He's like, well, I could just find somebody else. And she's like, oh, no, I don't want to lose him. So she's like, all right. But in her reluctant, backhanded, salty snarky kind of way. Yeah.
And like we alluded
She
to,
agrees.
and
Yeah.
like we mentioned with dialogue in general, there are 180 moments. Like
Oh, yeah.
there was like one moment where Maya's like, "What you're thinking is very lewd," and Sakuta's like, "What you just said is 100 times worse."
Yes. He's like, well, if you would stop saying these things that generate the lewdness in my
They're
mind.
pretty much a couple, and they pretty much like agree upon their thing. It's just a matter of like
making it official.
I'll throw you a curveball. You think it's that easy, huh?
Yeah. Oh, she's not going to make this easy for him at all.
Both sides.
Yeah. So essentially, this is the moment where they make it official. Yeah. She agrees to be his girlfriend. He asks, she agrees. Tomei takes that away from him.
Yeah.
She takes that away from him, and he is pissed. He is pissed because not only the situation, the misunderstandings in this show are serious.
They're apparent.
But they're serious too because you get these are they're fully drawn characters.
Yeah.
So they're a little bit more. Their reactions are a little bit more realistic. Finding your boyfriend on the floor with a girl on top of him. Yeah, that's a misunderstanding. That's a situation where you would be like, I'm pissed.
Beyond, yeah.
Yeah, forget this guy. Yeah. And so that's the situation. That's how his little Groundhog Day loop ends. And so you would think that he would want nothing to do with this person, and he really doesn't.
Yeah.
But that's not the way this show works.
No. Let's just say it's a perfect anime trope because she makes him agree to a fake relationship.
Yeah, to chase off this boy who won't let her go. Sakuta agrees to be her pretend boyfriend because they come up with the story. And Mai agrees to this because she's going to be away filming a movie. And so, but she warns him. Make sure that this doesn't, become real.
Mind you, I'm the bunny girl senpai.
Yeah. And so he thinks he's talking about him. And so he doesn't take it probably as seriously as he should because Tomei does end up falling in love with him.
Yep.
And it is, man, that was sad. That was sad.
It was one of those things.
Because the plan works. Yeah. Eventually he has to beat the crap out of the guy.
Yeah.
Because the guy's a total douche. But I think in that moment, Tomei falls for him.
Yeah.
And so their fake dates kind of become real for her, and they get stuck in a time loop again, and it's her. She wants to stay with him. She wants that one perfect day with him where they go to the beach, and she does it over and over and over again.
Yeah. And that's the fascinating thing about the show, because at least the second time viewing it, is because the internal problems are pretty much external problems. And like with the case of like never wanting to ascend, it'll become a problem. I want to disappear. Guess what? It'll be a problem.
Yeah.
So ultimately, like how the show progresses with that, like you're not ready for it, and it's like it's a fascinating case study of like accepting what it is and what are you wanting most out of it.
Well, emotions play a big part in activating, and it's commentary on Japanese society, and even just being a teenager, where your emotions play out, and then there's this reaction to them, because she confesses. And she does her own confession, and she wants them to be friends. She just can't find a way to get to that point.
Yeah.
And essentially, she's like, "Well, fall in love with me, then." And he's like, "I won't." And she's like, "Not after 100 times." He's like, "No, not after 1,000,000 times." And so she resets the clock to the very beginning and allows them to move forward. Allows Mai and Sakuta to move forward in that lunch where they become official. And man, their internal emotions does become their external problems because of the adolescent syndrome. And it's one of the more interesting and I think relevant things about this show. Yeah, because it's like you can really relate to what these people are going through.
It's creating on the mythos, and like I said,
it's such a creative way to express these things. It's like, oh wow. The next one we get into is the case of the Tufatubas.
Yes.
Where like, okay, he meets a version of his friend that's completely and totally different. The lab coat is gone. The glasses are gone.
Yeah.
And now she's like, got her own secret little website where she's posting risque photos.
Me and Edwin just reviewed Paranoid Agent not too long ago, and
Yeah.
it's set up like one of the episodes in Paranoid Agent.
It really is.
Yeah, two personalities. One's the slay side, and one's the angel, or at least like the normal like scientist.
Yeah, she calls it quantum teleportation.
Yes.
Where the mind has been teleported into a separate body.
Yeah.
And there's two Futubas. And I think this extends from her crush on their friend Yuma.
Yeah.
And, because she's secretly in love with him.
Yeah.
But he has a girlfriend. And so I think this is where she thinks that if she was different, he would be in love with her.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Ultimately, like these paradoxes are a thing that are a problem.
Yeah.
Ultimately, finding your own identity, angel saint kind of thing, where how could I be more attractive?
Well, how can I get his attention?
That too.
And then I like the fact that the website that she posts, the images that she posts, get her attention that she doesn't want.
Yep.
And I think that plays into Japanese society too, because she, at the same time, she says, I hate the fact that people pay attention to the fact that I have large breasts, but at the same time, I hate myself for wanting that attention.
Yeah, it's a conflicting nature as a whole.
Yeah.
Thus the terms with social media and things like that. We want the attention, but it comes with the consequences.
Yeah, because it's like, well, it becomes a question of why.
Yeah.
Why do we want that attention?
And then with the Sakura's case as well, having the wrongful bashing in a way, cancel culture ultimately.
Well, I think for her, it's more like she wants the attention, but she wants the attention from a specific person.
Yeah.
And it's like when you don't get the attention from that specific person, you might look for it in other places.
Sadly.
And and it becomes dangerous. And it's the moment where they spend time together. So the three of them as friends spend time together. She realizes that what she really wants is to not lose her friends.
Yeah.
And I mean, and it's understandable because Sakura has found Mai, and Yuma has his girlfriend, which I was annoyed by the entire time.
She's like one of those, like, yeah, you should be talking to him.
Like, stay away from my boyfriend because you're going to give him a bad reputation. It's like, this is his friend. Nobody cares.
Yuma doesn't care either.
No, Yuma doesn't care. Yeah, she was the only one that cared about any of this. It's like,
But yeah, that's actually my favorite paradox of the bunch because how it's set up. Like,
that one's really good because it's really like having the two of them really gives you like a good illustration. Like in the previous paradox, the previous incident.
With Tome.
Yeah,
it's all over the place.
You get it's all over the place, but you still get the time, the date, that same groundhog kind of like setup for it.
Yeah.
And I think that was really well done. But this is really well done too because you have the two separate ones and they look totally different, but you can tell that they're still the same person.
And it's almost like a throwback, like how we mentioned how this dialogue is almost like sophisticated, old-timey type of thing.
You get vibes from Paranoia Agent, but you also get like the evil twin from like sci-fi shows. Yeah. But it's handled so well that you don't get that cheesy aspect to it.
No.
Where it's like, oh my God, here's the evil twin. It's just so angst-ridden and well handled that it's like, okay, I get.
And the evil side per se is quite normal. Let's put it that way.
Well, she was more I think for her that was the girl that fit in more.
Yeah.
The side where it's like, all right, here I have these interests where I wear my lab coat, I have my science club, I wear my glasses. It's kind of like that nerd, that Beauty and the Beast, the nerd half, with on one side where this cool trendy girl on the other side. It's like, so she's conflicted. It's like, this is who I am, but if I were this person, would that person pay attention to me?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And like I said, my criticism is that you're just not prepared. You're just not prepared. And like, it's fascinating in a way because that's just what you're going to get yourself into regardless. But there is an overall thing because, like I said, right off the bat, at least for the first arc, you sense this more important story, at least with Sakura, and it happens to be with his sister.
Yeah. So the situation that they're in, we've described, is that she's essentially forgotten all of her memories.
Yes.
She's a completely and totally different person. She has not left this apartment since they moved in.
Yeah.
She's afraid to because outside of the apartment is reality. And she has no memories of dealing with that. She has no memories of going to school. She knows that people go to school. Like you said, she's like a newborn. And, Sakura is her world.
Yeah.
She wakes him up every day. She crawls into bed with him. She makes, comments about, loving his sister. And he's like, I'm not that kind of guy.
Yeah.
You know, it's
the older brother complex.
well, I love that they toss that trope in there, and he totally shuts it down.
Similar to the Bunny Senpai thing.
Yeah, it's like he totally shuts it down so fast.
Yeah.
It makes your, like.
Well, we were mentioning before recording out the aspect of the fan service. It's not there.
No, this show, there's a bunny girl suit that is there as a plot device.
Yeah.
It's not there as fan service. You would think, oh my God, it's there as fan. It's not.
And
It's
the title
there.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's there as a plot device. It's a little tongue-in-cheek humor. But that suit is there as a plot device.
Yeah.
There's no other instance. If there's any, this show doesn't do that.
No.
If there's a beach scene, it's not so that you can see the characters in bikinis. They're in bikinis because it's a beach scene.
Yep.
And the only one that I think that really happens to is Tomei. Yeah, because they go to the beach.
Yeah, and the reason why she left the agency was her mom was trying to force her to wear a swimsuit.
Yeah, so this show definitely has views on that kind of stuff, and that's not what this show is about. Yeah,
and then with Kade's case, like having that little sister thing, but it's also like a way to show how close they are.
Well, not only how close they are, but that's the situation that they find themselves in.
Precisely.
Because her memories are gone. Her memories of everything except from when she woke up in the hospital are gone. For the last 2 years, her brother has been her world.
Yeah.
That's it. It's the TV, it's the cat, it's her brother. That's been her entire world. She's been a shut-in, essentially.
And pandas as well. Pandas is a big thing with her.
Well, her panda suit is so adorable. Yeah. I mean, and it's... Man, this was rough. I love this show. I love the dialogue. I was not ready for this ending because she's a background character.
For gags and stuff.
There's some gags, like, her responses and stuff, and her, like innuendos and like her silliness, like, yeah, get, like the annoying little sister.
Anime.
That you totally, the annoying little sister that you totally love and you're taking care of. He has to confess to everybody about what's going on. To Mai and my sister. It's really sad.
Yeah.
Because here is a person that Kade becomes his child that he's raising. Because she's a totally new person. She's essentially like a toddler.
Yeah. And
so he essentially has spent 2 years raising her. And so when she does get her memories back, the Kade persona, essentially his child, is gone.
Yeah.
He loses her. He is heartbroken. He is heartbroken to the point where he can't deal with this. And it's emotional. Yeah. You get sad. I cried. I'm like, this show got me, and it got me again. Even being prepared, I had watched, this is my second viewing. I thought I was prepared for this.
Oh, boy.
I wasn't.
Or for me, it was more of the aspect, because when I first saw it, I was right through it. It was like harmless. Then now, after seeing Toradora, after seeing Horimiya, after seeing even Love Chinubi and Other Delusions, this other underlying question with a lot of romances and anime in general, like how appearances are super important and how teenagers ultimately deal with things nowadays. I'm like, if only I had seen these when I was, in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like how to express them. Like, oh my God, maybe this could have helped. And this show is definitely that case, because family situations are definitely apparent. But in Japanese society, in American society too, it's almost a taboo for having family issues dealt inside the family.
Yeah.
But no, it's a problem with everybody.
Well, I think with this show especially, more than some of the other shows, I mean, you get it a little bit in Toradora, you get it a little bit in Horimiya. It's an acceptance of yourself.
Yeah.
I don't want to say self-love, because I always feel that that's cheesy.
Yeah.
But I think accepting yourself and who you are, figuring out who you are and then accepting who that person is.
Yeah.
I think that that's one of the things of this show that I really like. the whole situation with his sister, that was rough.
Yeah.
That was rough,
And
especially because you can see her struggle to, knowing that their time together is coming to an end,
yeah.
knowing that, he's taken care of her and he's done everything, and that he's had to upend his life in order to take care of her, and how she wants to tell him that she appreciated it,
Yeah.
and that it made her happy.
But she had let it go, kind of thing, and
Yeah.
that's ultimately why.
Well, childhood has to end. Yeah.
And the second time viewing, I finally got at least that, or thought of that aspect more, because it is letting go of your youthful problems.
Yeah.
And even having that phase where you're still acting like a child, but guess what? You're a little bit bigger now. You have to grow up.
Yeah.
And even your mind has to be a step ahead nowadays. And it becomes eerily relatable.
Yeah. And I think that each one of these episodes they use that emotional core as a spark for whatever happens with the adolescent syndrome.
Yeah.
And I think it plays out fantastically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't recommend this show enough. I don't know, it's just so well written, so well acted. The voice actors do an amazing job.
Yeah.
I love them. I think they were phenomenal. And that's why this is one of my favorites. That's why I wanted to talk about this.
Yeah, for another birthday present. Now,
oh, definitely. I'm like, the movie is gonna be. I'm definitely watching the movie soon.
Yeah, I think we're gonna do an add-on review soon of it. So
that would be good. Yeah.
Well, we're doing that for Jujutsu Kaisen 0, so hey, why not?
Yeah, why not, dude? I'd be excited for that.
Yeah, and then I must ask, because we just did it for your birthday special, we had to deal with Kaguya and Mai. If you had to choose, who would you choose?
You're evil. You're evil.
I'll throw in Chica as well. Chica's the third wheel.
You're insane. That's just chaos, my friend. That's just chaos. You are Chica, my friend.
I know.
I don't. My
appreciated more the second time viewing around, because, like I said, first time, I do admit, like I mentioned,
she was surprisingly more mature than I remembered.
Yeah,
which I thought was really interesting.
Well, she's definitely had to grow up fast, and the celebrity ultimately,
definitely, she has.
You can't help but think about Zendaya. You can't help but think about celebrities that are relatively young and stay forever young.
Well, not only that, she's emotionally sophisticated.
Oh yeah,
she's way more emotionally sophisticated than him.
Yeah.
But he holds his own. Sakuda holds his own.
He knows how to balance it out.
Yeah, he holds his own. And there's the tit for tat, and they're both still young. But man, that's a hard question.
Yeah, because Kaguya we talk a lot about Komi and how she's related to Audrey Hepburn. I would argue that Kaguya is more related to Audrey Hepburn.
I could see that in a way. Yeah. Komi, dude, you're trying to make me pick, and I'm like, and then now you threw in Chica, now you threw in Komi. You're trying to kill me. You are literally trying to kill me with this.
And during my birthday special, we're like, oh, Reptilia.
Oh, yeah, we're going to do that. That's happening. Be prepared for that. But I'd have to say, if you let's take Komi out. Let's take Chica out. Let's just keep it Mai and Kaguya. It would be Kaguya.
Okay.
It would be Kaguya. Because there are moments where she's so adorably clueless that I can't help but and it's not that Mai isn't amazing. It's just that she's a little distant.
Yeah.
She's a little bit more distant than Kaguya. And watching Kaguya go from tsundere to this, just opening up and realizing that she's in love with Miyuki, you can't help but fall in love with her.
That's the one thing we forgot to mention in our Love is War, how they initially met. And she's like an ice queen. Yeah. And
growing up, she was because she's so sheltered and because, she was raised a certain way.
But the president got her out of her shell, kind of thing.
Well, her developing love for him is what got her out of the shell.
Yeah.
And just watching that transformation, and watching her become more and more unable to, deploy her wits about to keep her wits about her when she's around him, I thought was absolutely adorable.
Yeah,
Yeah. So in this battle, Kaguya wins.
but no, both are great. Both are definitely past 8 out of 10.
Oh yeah, I mean these shows. I mean, if we stop the silliness for a second, um, I can't help but recommend these shows really strongly because I think that they're the height of this genre. For me, Horimiya is still one of my absolute favorite romantic comedies.
My teen romantic
But
comedy, yeah, I would argue is up there for me, at least for me up there. And Sing Yesterday for me.
but both of those shows, Sing Yesterday for me, like Horimiya beats everybody for me.
Okay.
But that's in like the slice of life romance.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah.
That shows can be hysterical as well. But I think Love is War, when it comes to romantic comedies, it wins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In
this battle, Love is War wins.
In this one, ultimately, like with this comparisons to the world God only knows, like Bunny Senpai is like light years behind that or ahead of it because it made it better and more interesting in its own right.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a slice of life that you can take that's on the more serious side and that has this like fantasy element to it, like this urban myth, urban legend fantasy to it, I think there are very few shows that can beat it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like there might be like movies, there might be some like there's a few time travel movies that get almost as that are serious, and I can think of a few others, but for me, this one tops the bunch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And now a segment we like to call Connections, where we look at the voice actors or studios that are connected to the shows that we've discussed on the program today and how they connect to other shows that we've talked about in the past or shows that we like.
Yeah, yeah. For mine, even though I couldn't help it, I had to mention the whole cast of Love is War in our Love is War episode. I'll give a special shout out towards Yu Ishigami because both are tremendous. And Edwin had to pull my leg a little bit for the English side of it. I'm like, okay. It's almost like how I got him into watching Love is War. For the English side, I have Austin Tyndall. He's done a few. One I have to give a special shout out towards. He did Shenmue the animation, and he's the main character, Ryu. And he's also Monoma in My Hero Academia.
See, Jack? See?
Original voice is Ryuto Suzuki. He's also in Banished from the Heroes Party as Red. And he's also going to be the main villain in Dr. Stone, the new movie coming out in July.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Okay. So mine is the Japanese voice actor for Mai Sakurajima, whose name is Asami Seto.
Yep.
She's played some of Jack's favorites. She's voiced Raftalia in Rising the Shield Hero. She's also voiced Nomaru in Jujutsu Kaisen. And, surprise, surprise, she voiced Fena in Fena Private Princess.
It's like a karma for me asking if you like Kaguya or Mai more. If I had to choose between Raftalia.
Let's do it. Or we'll wait. We'll wait till your birthday special, Jack, to put you through that torture chamber.
Because we haven't mentioned the other female protagonist in Jack's
Payback, Jack. Payback. This is going to be payback.
Oh, no.
And now for the segment that we like to call Wallet Slayers.
Oh, yes. This is Edwin's birthday special still, so he's got to mention what he wants for his birthday.
Yes. And so what I want for my birthday is it's Kaguya-Sama related.
Oh, don't show me. It's going to be my present now.
It is the Chika Fujiwara figure.
The Detective Chika.
Yep.
I remember.
Love Detective Chika.
One of the best gags of the show.
Yeah, one of the best running gags of the show, where she's got her little detective cap and she rushes in saying, "I sense love conversations." So Chika knows, and she has the advice. And this is a cute, adorable statue with her pink flowing hair, her little red cap, just like from the Chika dance. And this is going on the Crunchyroll store for $194. We'll have pictures on it of it on the Instagram.
Of our page.
Yep, on our page, on our Instagram page. And now, Jack.
Now we're going to be talking about our manga recommends. And for mine, since we discussed heavily on Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Senpai, we have the offshoot special edition manga series called Rascal Does Not Dream of Petite Devil Kohai. Yes, and it's about Koga. It ties in with the show quite nicely. It's one of those kind of things you didn't expect, but I originally picked up thinking it would be like concluding at least towards the movie. It's his own adventure and it's kind of cute. And I'm like, you know what? All right, it's fun. There's definitely a lot more humor in this one, so that's ultimately why I did it. And Koga's not my favorite character of the show, full confession, but I felt like it deserved her justice a little bit.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and by the same author too, or at least with the original story, Hajime Kamoshida. So we have to give him proper kudos as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I have my manga for this episode kind of ties into my recommendation.
Yeah.
Because so a while back I read this manga called My Little Monster.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a Beauty and the Beast situation where you have a studious girl who only cares about her studies until she's asked to take printouts to a boy who's been suspended for beating the crap out of 2 upperclassmen.
Oh, wow.
3 upperclassmen.
Yeah.
And so this is essentially the story of how, they start to fall in love. How she starts to fall in love with a total delinquent, My Little Monster. And so I was watching, I'm on Crunchyroll trying to find the shows for this upcoming season because I know they're starting to be released. And I spot the anime that I didn't realize had come out for this show. And it's an older one too. It came out like maybe about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I didn't realize, and I'm really liking this show.
Okay.
So this is actually my manga for the week, and it's also my recommendation. The anime is my recommendation for the week.
Well, we were discussing before we recorded how Crunchyroll is getting bigger.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they're not being too precise with their navigation.
I don't know if this is the application that I'm using. I know on Funimation, which is now Crunchyroll, but on Funimation, they would list the dates for these shows.
Yeah.
Crunchyroll doesn't always do that. So I had to look up the release for this show. How
they setting up is like newer releases are a little bit older.
Yeah,
I get it. It's just a matter of
I don't have a problem with that either.
Yeah.
It's just that I'd like to know. I like to know, especially for the podcast.
Yeah, and that's my main gripe with
Yeah.
Crunchyroll ultimately, because the spring season will be up, but they won't highlight all the spring shows. You have to dig deep or read articles sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's why we try at least with our previews and our
Well,
recaps.
Funimation had changed that to where like they had new this season.
Yeah.
As one when you're looking through the streaming service, they had new this season. They don't have that on my Crunchyroll app for my PS5.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that changes soon. Otherwise, I'm going to be a little bit upset.
I know. It's one of those things where we just have to take it with a grain of salt. We're just we'll find what we find. It's just a matter of like, we're expecting perfection. It's never going to be perfect.
No. But I do. This show was released in the fall season of 2012.
Okay.
I didn't realize that the manga and the anime were that old.
Yeah.
But it's really cute. It's a little bit violent.
Oh boy.
What is called My Little Monster.
Yeah.
And he's the male character, Haru Yoshida. He's a delinquent. Like he's a straight up delinquent. Like this kid is violent.
You could say he's a rascal.
No. No. This is the violence is never explicitly mentioned as a fetish.
Yeah.
But you get kind of the idea that the main character Shizuku, you get the idea that none of this stuff is a turn on for her.
Okay.
And yet she can't help but fall in love with Haru. And it's funny. It's funny. There's definitely that sense of danger to it, which is a little bit odd. And she does question herself. It's like, why am I falling for this guy? And there's another girl who falls for him, and she tells herself, I've made the wrong choice. Yeah. So, and then there's a rooster.
Oh, is it kind of like the armadillo?
Yes. Yes. The rooster is essentially the mascot of the show.
Yeah.
But Haru is not house trained. He's a total delinquent. And it's watching the interaction between the two. It's another will they, won't they?
Yeah.
And the student council representative is kind of like the rival slash foil.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying it, so that's why it's my recommendation for this week.
And for my recommendations, also my Wall Slayer. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, hey.
And it's Edwin's birthday special, so I can't help but give a great shout out towards Edwin's art page.
Oh, thank you, Jack.
And Neve's art. How do you pronounce it?
E. Nieves Art.
Wow. You know, it's one of those things for the last couple weeks and the last couple episodes, Edwin's up to his game. I'm not exaggerating. It started
Thank
from,
you, Jack.
Yeah, it started from day one, honestly, because I'm a sucker for fan art, as we all know. And I love the general progression of a lot of these artists. And a lot of artists I've already mentioned, they've had day ones where they don't know how to handle it. I've seen a lot of posts where they're like, this is me a year ago. This is me 2 years ago, 10 years ago. They're getting better by the minute. Oh my God. And the techniques and the stuff they learn. And Edwin's been doing art for a long, long time. And he's gotten, he's finding his stride, at least going out with his platform. So I can't help but recommend
I kind of
it.
owe that to you, Jack, because Jack wanted to have, since day one, Jack wanted to have covers for each episode.
Yeah,
a different cover for each episode.
Straight up from the source kind of.
And he said, Edwin, can you do this sketch of Kind of Money? And
it was good.
And he really liked it. And it got a lot of likes. And it wasn't like my best work. It was kind of like, okay, what can I come up with? And then it just started, we continued I had to come up with something every week or every time we released an episode. So it was like, okay, I'll keep doing this. And it was just that kind of like repetitive, like every week I need to come up with something and I need to draw these characters that just kind of made me more comfortable with the process. And it just became more and more creative, more and more fun. And I've become really proud of some of the covers that I've done, especially the paranoia agent brand new animal one.
Yeah, the detailing
is probably actually not only one of my favorite covers for this podcast, but actually one of my most favorite things that I've produced as an artist.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I love your gun for Psychopaths. I love the Comey episode, because that was, you did it on the fly. I'm like, oh, Edwin, you got something.
That was I was really frustrated because I didn't know how to capture the cuteness of Comey.
It's nearly impossible.
Yeah, and so I said, well, I'll take my favorite moment and turn that into the cover, and I did, and Jack loved it. I gave him the original.
I wouldn't mind getting all of them the originals, to be honest.
Another one of my favorites is the season one.
Yeah,
with Fatsuba and Comey on the same postcard kind of thing. Yeah. That's another one of my favorites. Yeah, but Jack, that's part of that is due to you, man, and just wanting those covers every week. It really helped me grow, and it helped me to just doing that every week has helped me to grow as an artist and expand my skills. And so thank you, sir.
No. Regardless, 950 Club welcomes any type of art, and especially Edwin's.
We love the amount of talent and creativity that the artists that we follow are capable of. It's amazing and awe-inspiring, and it's intimidating.
Well,
they do such great stuff.
Even with everything else, watching anime will get better and better and better. So it's been a great ride, and we're hoping for the best for our next couple episodes as well. And we're thank you, the listener, for following along with us.
Yeah, thank you guys. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Like, comment, share. Keep us on your minds. Download the podcast. We just want to keep growing with you guys.
Yep. And thank you again
for tuning in to the 950 Club.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.